All right, this is part 2 of our space montage lesson. And we've kind of filled out the bottom part of our montage here. Now we're going to add some more pictures and kind of finish off the top, showing you a couple other techniques so you can create one of your own. So let's go back to the File menu, choose File, Import, and if you have to, go back to click the little drop-down menu and go Shared Students, find the Ryan Web Design folder, and go into the Picture Montage folder. Okay? Again, if at any time I'm going too fast for you, pause the video, back it up, listen to it, watch it again until you kind of get what I've done. To see the pictures, click the little view in the upper right-hand corner, choose Thumbnail. And let's see, at the top there, let's choose maybe the space, the planets. So choose that, click and drag. We'll put those kind of up here someplace. And let's go File, Import. And let's do Thumbnails. And maybe we'll do the rocket, the liftoff one. And kind of click and drag. And put that there, and let's see another one here. File, Import, Thumbnails, and let's see what else we got here. Maybe we'll do this rocket right here, kind of coming apart in space. Say Open, and click and drag, and put that right there. Again, notice how, since we've just put these on, how they've overlapped on top of our other pictures. We'll be able to change the order here in a little while. All right, let's see what happens if we can take the blackness out from around the planets and we're left with just the planets. So I'm going to use our magic wand again, choose the black, and then hit delete. And now we're left with just the planets. I'm going to hit escape. And that's, you know, we can use that somehow. The rocket here, we might want to cut that out. So let's go from 66 up to 300%. And we want to use our polygon lasso. And let's cut that out, including, let me zoom out a little bit here. We want to keep, you know, the rocket and maybe the smoke. We'll get the smoke, and maybe we'll just kind of go out around here. You know, I've changed my mind on that because part of what makes this picture neat is the fact that it's lifting off and it's not just a rocket. So we're going to use the feather technique for this. So come over and choose the marquee tool, and let's create a square around our rocket, something along those lines. Go to the Select menu and choose Feather, and I'll make this a 30, and select the inverse, select inverse, and then hit delete. There you go. And then I'm going to hit escape and come to the bottom and increase the transparency to about 80 again. So now we'll be able to kind of overlap that with a couple other pictures. All right. Now I'm going to scroll down and over, and we have our rocket here. Again, I think I'm going to use the feather technique for that too. So draw a marquee around it. And for this one, notice it takes up most of the picture. So my marquee is going to be around most of the picture. And when I go select feather, I'm going to drop it down to only 10. So it only takes off the edges. Select the inverse, delete, and then hit escape, and then decrease the transparency to about 80. Okay? All right, I'm going to zoom back out. So go to the lower right-hand corner, zoom back out to 66%. And we want to make sure the NASA label is on top, so we're going to select that. Go back to Modify, Arrange, Bring to Front. And there we have that, staying in the middle. We might want to take these planets and rotate them a little bit. So do the Scale tool. And when it's a circle, click and just kind of drag the planets. And maybe we can bring those to the front too. Modify, Arrange, Bring to Front. And that can kind of go on top of this rocket. Now we need a good picture here where these planets can kind of be on top of and not interfere with the other picture. So let's see what we have. Go File, Import, do Thumbnail, and let's see if we can find a good picture, something along this line maybe. Yeah, that looks like a good choice. So let's use our lunar module, and when it comes up in the preview, hit Open, come up to the corner and kind of click and drag so it kind of takes up this area right here. And you can see by clicking on the planets, you can kind of see where they are, where that picture is behind it. We don't want it to kind of take over the lunar module. We want it kind of in this area over here. But before we do it, let's fix up our lunar module picture by making that a little transparency. So I am going to keep the square on this, but I'm just going to decrease the transparency. So select it and bring it down to say 80, and maybe a little bit more, 80, maybe around 70. There we go. And you start seeing those planets in the background. So let's select our planets and let's bring that to front. Modify, Transform. Modify, Arrange, bring to front. And now we can kind of maybe move them to the side. I'm going to choose my Scale tool and kind of rotate them over a little bit like this. So it's around the lunar module a little bit there. There we go. And then come back and choose your pointer tool and then deselect and kind of see how, now you can see how, maybe use my arrow keys just to nudge you down a little bit, how these pictures are kind of overlapping each other. When they overlap, it gives a kind of a neat look. I'm going to move the rocket overlapping my lunar module and bring that to front. So Modify, Arrange, Bring to Front. There we go. And you can kind of see now by overlapping the planet and the rocket, you can see how it all kind of blends together. Maybe bring this down a little bit and bring this over a little bit. Maybe resize this one a little bigger. Something along those lines. And there you go. So you can kind of see it's coming together. Again, we're going to come back and we'll make sure our NASA logo is on top. So select that, choose Modify, Arrange, Bring to Front, then deselect. Okay, we have a couple more pictures to insert. We have a space here and a space here, and there's a couple other techniques I want to show you real fast. So let's go to the File menu, Import, and let's choose a thumbnail, and let's choose this lunar landing right here. And let's click and drag and let's put that kind of up in this area here. And let's go back to the File menu and choose Import and Thumbnails. And what haven't we used down here? We haven't used this space shuttle here on, and we haven't used the splashdown either. Let's go ahead and choose this Space Shuttle 2, and we'll click and we'll kind of make that in this area right here. And right now they're overlapping and it kind of hiding some of the other ones, but that's okay. We're going to come back and fix that up a little bit. So let's come back to the lunar module, and it doesn't quite fit on here. What we might want to do with this is kind of, there you go. I'm going to trim it a little bit. So let's use the marquee, and let's just trim it just a little bit here. going to select the inverse and delete, just to make it a little bit smaller, and hit escape. And then I'm going to choose a distort tool, and we'll see what kind of shape we can come up here. So go to select, go to modify, transform, and let's use distort. And what distort is going to allow us to do is take each one of these points and kind of move it independently. So I can kind of make a tripod out of it. And this one I'm going to kind of make a little squatty body. You can make the angles anywhere you want. So I'm kind of making it kind of a tripod here. I'm going to do the same thing for down here for the space shuttle. So deselect or come back and choose the pointer tool. Choose the space shuttle. Another way to get to that distort is to come to our scale tool here and choose the skew or distort. In our case, it's distort. And again, I'm just going to kind of move this in the middle and move this in the middle. And, you know, this is kind of fun depending on what kind of pictures you have, because you can kind of really change the shape of it a little bit and make it look a little funny. Okay? So there's just play with that, especially when you have your own project. Use the scale, the skew tool. It just kind of brings it kind of to the side. Hang on. There we go. No. Wait. Go in the middle a little bit. But play around with those a little bit as you start playing with it. Okay. Come back to the pointer. Again, I'm going to select it and decrease the transparency a little bit there. And I'm going to decrease the transparency up here. Something along those lines. I'm going to rotate this. There we go. Something along those lines. And then we'll make it a little bigger. And notice how some of it's hanging off the page, which is fine. And pointer, go back to the moon. Instead of bringing the moon forward, I want to bring this lunar module back underneath the moon, I think. So, well, maybe not. Yep, that's what we want to do. So modify, transform, actually arrange, send backwards. And it's send to back, I guess. Arrange, send to back. There you go. The difference, real quick here, the difference between send to back and send backwards, or bring to front or bring forward. Bring forwards, if you think about that, those papers on the desk, bring forwards means you bring the paper on the bottom up one level in front of just the paper in front of it. Bring to front takes that paper in the stack, no matter wherever it is, and brings it to the front of the stack. So depending on what you want to do, you might want to use one or the other. All right? And let's see here. So I think for your montage, you would probably want a few more pictures, a few more overlappings. That's enough for us right now, just to show you some of these techniques. A couple other things you can do, though, is you can add some filters. So you can, say, select this space shuttle launching, come down to the filters down here, and add like a glow to it. Here's a glow. And instead of a red glow, you might, come over here. We might want to actually go back to the swatches and make it a little darker glow there to it. And we can do the same thing with some of our other. Actually, I'm going to bring this one to the front. Modify, arrange, bring to front. There we go. And you can put maybe a glow around NASA for sure. That would be pretty cool. So here, glow, maybe a inner shadow, maybe. Yeah, see how there's got a little shadow? Maybe I'm going to increase that a little bit, make it a little darker. Click on that. See how as I increase this, it's got a little more of an inner shadow there. Another option, you can take two pictures that you've modified, say our space guy and the moon, and we want those two to stay together. We want them to group them together. So select one, hold down the Shift key, and select the moon. So when you hold down the Shift key and select both of them, then we can group them together by going to the Modify menu, choose Modify Group. And now notice when you click on it, it sees it as one object. And we can apply filters now to that one object. You can come over to the Assets, if you recall, on your right-hand side. Click on Assets over here. And these are all built-in standard formatting filters that you can apply. You can kind of find one that you kind of like and apply that. That's kind of a cool look right there. So I might stick with that one. So you can play around with that on a couple of these. Say maybe a rocket right here, maybe doing something along that with the rocket, kind of highlights it, or one of these others. Play around with it a little bit. Okay. So if you need to pause the video, go ahead and do that and add some filters to some of these pictures right here. When you're finished, come back. As the next thing we're going to do is you might want to add some text. So to add some text, we're going to add some text kind of along the bottom here. We've got some space in here. I'm going to click on the text tool, which is the A. I'm going to click and drag and come up with our text, maybe something like space, the final frontier. So you'll type that in. Let me click this and move it so maybe you can see it there a little bit better. Space, the final frontier. Pause the video, type that in, and then we can play around with that on what we want to do and how we want it to look like. So selecting that, you can of course change the font type, font size here, all right? Move it up, change the color, something a little bolder. Certainly come down here from the Assets, scroll to the bottom of the Assets and add some filters to it and get a good filter. Okay, I'm going to choose this yellow one right here so it's kind of easy to see, and we might want to, there we go. Okay, and then we might want to adjust that a little bit, maybe make it come down here to the width tool and maybe make that a little wider, stretch it out a little bit. All right. Here. Oh, I might have to use the white buttons and make it a little wider there. There we go. Move that. We might want to use the scale tool to kind of rotate it a little bit. And you can use your arrow keys. If you can listen, I'm hitting my arrow key to nudge it over and up and kind of get in a place where I want it to be. There you go. Now with, again, your text selected, I just want to come down here to where it says normal and just show you how you can still kind of play with the text a little bit by choosing kind of some of these. That kind of gives it a pretty cool inverse color burn, or you can try like a fuzzy light, something like a stamp. Try some of these. You may or may not like what being applied on this. Remember, when you do your own or in the future, you just want to kind of be aware that these options are here. So I'm gonna leave it on the inverse color burn a little bit, and so don't forget to play around with that to give you a special look. Okay, so there you have it. If you deselect, you can kind of see what it looks like, and even zoom out a little bit more to kind of see how the montage kind of all comes together. This is an okay job. It's not great, but we have some overlapping. We've cut things out, right? We've done some feathering and some transparency. We've added a focus in the middle, and your focus, when you do yours, can be at the top or somewhere, but you want to have kind of a focus and a purpose to your montage. We've added some text, and we've added filters and some assets to help the background and whatnot. We've also played with the text a little bit with the features, the properties down here. Okay? So your assignment now is to kind of come up with your own montage using some of these techniques and some other things that we've learned, you've learned in the class, and come up with some creative, fun picture or scene to look at.